Flip the unit over and remove 2 7mm screws and 2 4mm screws. Also loosen 2 captive screws. Gently insert the opener pick and slide along the edges to pop the bottom cover free. Peel back the tape and gently pull back to unplug the battery from the motherboard. Peel back the tape, flip open the locking clip, and unplug the stylus charger from the motherboard. Remove 3 3mm screws from the stylus charger. Remove 1 2mm screw from the Wi-Fi card bracket. Move the bracket. Peel back the tape. And unplug the Wi-Fi card from the motherboard. Flip open the locking clip and unplug the Palmrest cable from the motherboard. Flip open the locking clip and unplug the world-facing camera cable from the motherboard. Peel back the tape, flip open the locking clips, and unplug the daughterboard cables from the motherboard. Pull back to unplug the speaker cable from the motherboard. Pull back to unplug the camera cable from the motherboard. Peel back the tape. Flip open the locking clip and unplug the LCD cable from the motherboard. Peel back the tape, flip open the locking clip, and unplug the touchpad cable from the motherboard. Remove 3 4mm screws and 4 3mm screws. Remove the metal bracket from the motherboard. Lift up and pull back, taking care not to bend or damage the ports, and unplug the last speaker from the motherboard. Remove 4 4mm screws from the battery. Remove 4 4mm screws from the speakers. Remove 3 4mm screws and 1 2mm screw from the daughter board. Remove the metal bracket. Gently lift up and pull back, taking care not to bend or damage the ports. Remove 2 4mm screws from the world-facing camera. Peel back the tape. Flip open the locking clip and remove the touchpad cable from the touchpad. Peel back the tape and remove 3 2mm screws from the touchpad. Gently lift up to pop the touchpad free. Remove 4 4mm screws from the hinges. Unwind the cables so that they're free. Place your fingers on the hinges and gently wiggle the Palmrest free from the LCD assembly. Replace the Palmrest onto the hinges and fold back. Place the 4 4mm screws into the hinges. Replace the touchpad. And replace 3 2mm screws. Plug the touchpad cable back into the touchpad. Replace the speakers. And replace the 4 4mm screws. Replace the world-facing camera. Replace the bracket. And replace the 2 4mm screws. Gently put the daughter board back into place. Replace the bracket, and replace 3 4mm screws and 1 2mm screw. Replace the battery, and replace the 4 4mm screws. Plug the speaker back into the motherboard, and gently put the motherboard back into place. Make sure all the cables are free from underneath. Reseat the LCD cable and plug the LCD cable back into the motherboard. Plug the Wi-Fi card back into the motherboard. Make sure to reseat the cables. Replace the bracket and replace the 1 2mm screw. Plug the other speaker back into the motherboard. Make sure to reseat the cable. Plug the daughterboard cables back into the motherboard. Plug the camera cable back into the motherboard. Make sure to reseat the cable. Plug the touchpad cable back into the motherboard. Plug the Palmrest cable back into the motherboard. Plug the world-facing camera cable back into the motherboard. Replace the stylus charger and replace the three 3mm screws. Plug the stylus charger back into the motherboard. Replace three 4mm screws and four 3mm screws back into the motherboard. Be sure to replace the metal bracket first.